Good evening, folks. If you weren't here for the first hour before, we had interviewed 3 candidates for the vacancy here in the school board directors. It's our intention after public comment to open the floor for nominations, which is a little different than our regular scheduled meeting. So that's just kind of a little bit of a roadmap where we're going to go very early on in our meeting. Having said that, good evening and welcome. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Board of Directors meetings and committee meetings are open to the public but are not public meetings. All or any school district residents who wish to make public comment should sign in prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. Public comment is welcome and all issues will be referred to the appropriate board committee or administrator. Comments will be summarized in our official board minutes, which will be made available by contacting the business office. If you would kindly take a moment to silence your cell phones or any other electronic devices. Mr. Davis is absent. He's excused this evening. Mr. Moore is joining us by telephone and will participate, including voting, throughout this meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice and communications, Dr. Perrin.
Is AYSO here? Okay. So we start with AYSO.
Hi, my name is Pamela Morsi, and I'm a new board member with the AYSO, and we will not take a lot of time. We just wanted to say thank you for letting us use the beautiful field again this year, and then present the board with a check for $5,400. So thank you again, and if we could do anything for the field, you just please let us know.
Thank you so much. Jason. The next portion of our notice and communications is it's pretty exciting for some, I would hope. And on behalf of the board, it's our retirees recognition. On behalf of the board, it's certainly been an honor to work not only with you but for you in some capacity. And on behalf of the board, we absolutely wish you a happy retirement and thank you for all your years of service, not only to the community but the students here. Thank you. Jason.
Sure, we're going to have Morgan read names of all retirees, even those that aren't present, and then we'll give them a round of applause for many years of combined service. And as we say each year, as folks go out the door, you never replace the individuals. You might fill the position, but there's a lot of institutional knowledge that walks out the door when folks retire. But it's certainly well deserved as they move on to the next phase of their work, which hopefully is no work, but maybe different for each person. But congratulations.
So at this time, if we could have those individuals, when your name is called, if you're present with us tonight, to please come up and accept your certificate. So our retirees, Lisa Augusta for 21 years as part of our food service staff at our middle school. Dee Dee Becker for 19 years as one of our paraprofessionals at Lincoln Elementary. Bill Bowling for 27 years as our transportation director here at the administration building. Jennifer Buckley for 2 years as a science teacher at our middle school. Janet Eastman for 31 years as a family and consumer science teacher at our high school. Stephen Glassman for 20 years as a science teacher at our high school. Rob Gokenhauer for 35 years as a custodian at Franklin Township Elementary. Lisa Gray for 10 years as a teacher at Lincoln Elementary School. Jeanette Prendergast for 23 years as a food service staff member at Lincoln Elementary. And Tracy Settle for 27 years as a custodian at Franklin Township Elementary.
I was doing the math real quick, and I had to get real quick. That's over 190 years worth of service to this district. In fact, I almost put, it's actually, if I did the math accurately, 200 years. Citizens participation, I am being told that we do not have any this evening, which brings us to 5.1, the election of any candidate or the potential election. So at this time, I would entertain a motion from a board member for a candidate, 2 candidates, or 3 candidates.
I make a motion, Mr. President, for Ms. Pratt.
Second.
Al?
Yep.
Do you want to bring forth, there's a motion on the floor right now for Kathleen Pratt that's been seconded. I'm going to ask the board if there are any additional motions for any additional candidates.
Nope, I'm good.
Hearing none, I'll go right to roll call. And actually, no, I'll wait till afterwards. Roll call. Al?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
And I vote yes. I neglected, by the way, congratulations, Kathleen Pratt, as a new elected school board member.
Mr. Pratt, let's thank our other candidate.
Right. So, and I wanted to do this prior to any motion because I wasn't sure which motion, if any, was going to happen. So I wanted to actually take a moment and before I entertain the motions, I wanted to say publicly that it takes some strong character to come in here and go through the process. And I know that firsthand because I did it. And I sat outside and waited and I interviewed and was not selected. But however, as fate would have it, I got in through election. So the fact that candidates showed up here is more than lip service. They actually, all 3 of you took the time out of your day, and I think you demonstrated, every single one of you that interviewed are not here for a special interest, that you actually believe in the district and you think you could bring something to the district. And unfortunately, we had 1 vacancy. So the ones that weren't, I can't express my appreciation, the fact that you came in here this evening, and you have my respect completely for that. So thank you again to all the candidates. And Kathleen Pratt, congratulations. If you would come forward to be sworn in, and we will give you a seat over here by Miss Myers. You have to give me a moment. I have to do my roll call because I wasn't sure what candidate I was going to be calling out to vote tonight. Okay, continuing on, just a little bit of a curveball here this evening. When we go to routine approvals, I'm going to ask for a motion 6.1 through 6.10. I'm deliberately leaving 6.11 off, and I'll explain the reasoning when we get to that. So may I have a motion for 6.1 through 6.10?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a question on the motion 6.1 through 6.10? For the public, it's the agenda, 6.1, 6.2, regular school board minutes, 6.3, public budget minutes from May 19th, 6.4 is the regular board minutes from May 19th, 6.5 is the authorization of a superintendent hiring, 6.6 is authorized year-end budget transfers, 6.7 approval of depositories, and the 6.8 approval of athletic game help rates, 6.9 approval of facility use hourly labor rates, and then 6.10 exorbitant elected tax collectors. So any questions on that motion? Hearing none, roll call. Kathleen?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
6.11, I'll ask for a motion. That motion will exclude the Act 93 portion of it, meaning that Act 93 would not be a part of this and be moved to the next meeting's agenda as an action item. So when you're approving HR this evening, it is all-inclusive with the exception of the Act 93. Are there any questions on what the motion is I want to put forth? Hearing that, may I have a motion for
So moved.
Second.
question on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, roll call. Al?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Items for board action 7.1, the ACTI operating budget 2025-2026. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Question on the motion on the floor.
Mr. Hassinger, is this the time that I can ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
Thank you, Michelle. I do have a couple of questions about the prior year comparison. Do we know why Allied Health does not have dental insurance or health savings account line items? But all of the others do.
Yeah, Sean.
Sean, thank you. Thank you for coming forward.
Okay, that's on the detailed line items.
Yes, it's on the budget prep prior year comparison by function object. And it's page 1 of 13, Allied Health. All of the other disciplines do have a dental insurance line item and a health savings account line item. So I was just curious to know why they don't.
Is it because
The-
okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, yes, the allied health teacher is the wife of the diesel technology teacher, so her insurance is under his line item.
Well, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
I was just worried that, they weren't going to have like.
No,
nice
she has
teeth, so-
dental and,
All right.
yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Kathleen, do you have additional?
I do
Oh.
actually. Well, thank you for entertaining this. So there are several sections, 2360 is one of them, that has got a category line item called 111, for instance, but no description of what that is. So if we look at section 2360,
Yes, that's the salary of the executive director.
those are salaries.
Yes.
And so is that the same then, for instance, section 2390, that's got a line item 141, but not a description of what 141 is?
That's correct, that's the
So they're all
salary.
salaries. All right,
Yes.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's all, thank you.
You're welcome. Any additional questions from board members prior to roll call? Sean, I think we're great. Thank you again for stepping forward.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you all.
Roll call, Kathleen.
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Alice.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Al.
Yes.
And I vote yes. 7.2, the acquisition of lands for school purposes resolution. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Question on the motion?
Mr. Hassinger, I do have a question, if that's
Yes.
all right. And a part of this is that
I totally
been
understand.
away from you for 4 years. All right. But, so I recognize that there have been failed negotiations with this landowner, as stated here. Have we explored other options beyond getting to this point of eminent domain that just were not?
No, I think that the sale was already approved by the courts, and the sale was already approved by the district. I think this action was requested by the landowner to help this go through.
So the landowner is in support of this?
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
No, thank you.
Hearing none. Al.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Alice.
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Informational items, 8.1, Unity Park Boy Scout project. Would you please make sure to mic? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. All right, good evening, board. My name is Caleb Sellers. I am with the Boy Scout Troop 73 based here in Gettysburg, and I'm going to be giving a brief presentation on a proposed Eagle Scout project that I am required to plan, develop, and lead. That is going to be constructing a bandstand down in Unity Park. Now, the bandstand is an idea that stems from the fact that the original project was at Unity Park was also an Eagle project, which was designed to commemorate and honor the Civil War musicians of the time. My project aims to enhance that idea by providing a dedicated space for non-musical performers and musical performers alike. It is also designed to complement the bell stand that exists in Alumni Park as to more naturally blend in with the space. Now, the design itself is going to be based off of the bandstands that were constructed sometime in the 1880s and 1870s, which is around the time when Gettysburg began to be memorialized and recognized historically. Here you can see an example from 1871, that kind of style. Here's a view of what the proposed structure might look like across the street from Mr. G's. Here's a different angle from Mr. G's. Oop. There we go. Here's a view from the edge of Alumni Park. Here's a long axis view with the statue and tablets from Unity Park in the distance. Another long axis view from the hilltop overlooking the space. Another long axis view that is from the street corner. And here, finally, is an aerial view that you can see what it might look like from above. Now, the key benefits of this project are going to be that it enhances the appeal and functionality of Unity Park because it is currently quite underutilized. It will encourage community participation through performance and music in general. It will strengthen the community activities at a site that is historically significant. And as an Eagle project, it will be a lasting legacy, especially for the 250th anniversary of the United States next year. Now, the considerations for the project, the cost is still to be determined. I am currently speaking with somebody about that. Funding, however, is entirely my responsibility. The board and the school district does not have to worry about that. That is all my doing. However, contributions will be welcomed, but are definitely not required. As for the timeline, I expect to start sometime this summer and would like to have this completed by the America's 250th next year or sometime sooner. This entire project, however, needs to be done by my 18th birthday in order for me to actually achieve the rank of Eagle Scout. So, have a bit of a timeline there. Now, as for the construction of the project, I will include scouts from my own troop, as well as I will be working with the Order of the Arrow Network, which is a Boy Scouts of America organization, pretty much the honor roll of Boy Scouts, as well as students, friends, colleagues, any volunteers who may be interested in helping with the project. As I said earlier, I have been talking with somebody about the design and the cost of this. Mr. Snyder, who runs ACTI Building Trades, is going to be acting as the chief consultant and quality control officer for the project. And as the school district is a beneficiary of this project, progress updates on it will be provided as it is requested. Now, the approval process, like I said, the school district is a beneficiary of this project, and it has two. The other one being the community of Gettysburg itself. So I will need, first of all, the approval from the school district, as it is their property. And second of all, once I get that, I will need the approval from the community of Gettysburg and the borough to actually build the structure. And then once I have both of those, I can take that to the Eagle Scout Board of Review Committee to actually continue with my project. To summarize what my request simply is, I'm seeking that the Gettysburg Area School District approve my project so that it can get further down the road towards execution. I am open to any guidance and recommendations that the school district may have towards this project, as well as any collaboration and or support that they may be willing to give. Again, that is not required, but it is definitely welcome. If there are any questions, we'll take them now. But thank you for your time and consideration, and thank you, Dr. Matzner and Facilities Director, Mr. Reynolds, for inviting me to come out this evening.
I don't have a question, but I just want to make sure you understand. Because it's an informational item this evening,
Yes.
There was a request to move it to an action item, and I'm confident that you have board support.
Yes.
I just unfortunately, because of the way it's structured, can't move it this evening from an informational item to an action item.
Yes, of
Because
course.
I would not, and then I'm not allowing the public input in public comment.
Yes, of
So
course.
I don't want you to read into that. I mean, certainly this is a fantastic presentation. It's a fantastic idea. So it is the way it will go. I'll make sure it's on the next meeting's agenda for a vote.
Yes, okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Board, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Well, boy, oh boy, don't we get a great follow-up to this. 8.2, the 2025-2026 district budget. You notice my enthusiasm, right?
I can tell your enthusiasm, yes. Thank you. So for this evening, I have before you, as we get near to the adoption of the general fund budget, a presentation for you this evening. Before you tonight, we have two slides, this one and the next one. This one is recommendation from administration of 1.5% increase, 1% for ACTI, and 5% to cover all other expenditures in the budget. The revenues are total $77.5 million, with the expenditures being, apologize for the smallness of the slide, but $79.2 million and a deficit to be addressed by the general fund budget unreserved is $1.6 million. The next slide itself is just a presentation of 1%, what the 1% looks like as a recommendation. So there's two recommendations before the board, obviously. 1.5%, the administration recommendation, and 1% for the ACTI bond funding in of itself. So you may ask what necessarily changed between the two. We'll go further on to explain this. On the 1% budget, we have 77, sorry, I'm going off of my slides here on the computers. It's a little easier to read as the numbers are smaller. The presentation will be available online. But for the 1%, we have $77.5 million for revenue and $79,214,000 for expenditures using $1.63 million of fund balance. Next slide. We talked a lot about fund balance before. And where was our fund balance over the course of the year? And we always typically wait for the audit to determine what the fund balance is moving forward. It's where the biggest push for our audit to start with, simply because we're in a current fiscal year, and while we can project the current surroundings, it is very unusual or it's not recommended to count your fund balance twice to try to balance your budget for the following year. So the fund balance, as we stated here, from 14-15, we had in the undesignated fund balance, we started with 11 million. As of 23-24 audit, we have 6.3 million. And why I wanted to show this representation of 6.3 million is because that is the beginning fund balance that we work with the next year's budget. So as you can see, the unassigned fund balance, 10-year history, the decreases over a period of time to the unassigned fund balance. With the exception of 23-24, it was an influx of federal money that year. So you can see the change in the unassigned. Any increases or decreases in the fund balance, whether it's less expenditures or more revenue, rolls right into the fund balance for the following year's calculation. Next slide, please. So here's the summary approach. The 6.3 million, of which I talked to you briefly on the previous slide, it's our beginning number. So if you're looking at 1.5% increase or 1% increase, you can see the revenue for each, 7 million or 77.5 million for the revenues, and the expenditures are 79 respectively. So the revenues less expenditures, 1.6 million. That is what our intent to use fund balance is, to balance our budget. If you take the consideration of the 6% fund balance by board policy, we must retain 4.7 million of unreserved fund balance in our calculations. That 6% fund balance is a percent of expenditures. So in summary, whatever option is selected, it's 6.3 million less 1.6 million, which equals 4.7 million for your fund balance as the end of the following year. Next slide, please. So what changed from the proposed budget previously? Yes.
So, Belinda, just to point out then, because the question of fund balance always comes up. So the slide that showed going from 11.5 million down to 6, that's from when the district used to keep 8%.
Correct.
Based on policy.
Correct.
And now we keep the low
6%.
The low threshold.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. I think there was a commitment to keep 8% at that period of time, and then, of course, over a period of time, the reduction down to 6%.
Yeah, at that time it was trying to keep a percentage of the district's. Basically, it was a percentage of the property that the district owned, making sure that we had enough in savings to deal with any significant issues.
Correct. So, from what changed from the previous budget and last meeting that we had, there was several items of discussion that evening. We had since then we have received information from our property and casualty insurance as a third-year increase, and so we reflected that in this budget, as well as the previous budget presented to you did not have the ACTI tuition. Thank you for Mrs. Smyers for reminding me. But all presentations prior did not have that in. This number was new, so of course with all the other changes that were occurring up to date, we proposed to make those changes reflective into the the budget. So we did increase the tuition, as well as we took a look at the real estate. Thank you, Mr. Fordham, for reaching out to the assessment office once again to get any updated assessment changes. So we have increased the assessment allocations based upon the estimates received from the county. Decreases since the last meeting. In order to get to the 1%, which I can briefly explain, we also took a look at decreasing the capital funding for the budget. So we initially started out in the pre-planning phases of $1 million funding for capital reserve, capital plan, which is the 5-year capital plan. The first go-around of reductions, we reduced it by $125,000. Last board meeting, the request came, can we reduce the capital plan? Again, in order to get to 1%, in order to do that, we're taking an additional $178,000 from there. So we're going from $1 million to a new funding of $696,000. So we did decrease the capital plan funding. You will see that reflection in the expenditure between the two columns. There's really the changes other than the increases are reflected, as well as the discussion on the GAF funding. So that is really in a summary fashion of what changed from last budget presentation to this budget presentation, and coming back before the board with two options, 1% or a 1.5% increase. The next slide, please.
Can I ask a quick question about
Yes,
that?
please.
Just to clarify, I know I was not present at the last meeting, and I know that the prior meeting we had a presentation from our director of the GAEF, the Education Foundation, about all the ways in which that foundation serves the school district. I know there had been conversation about what exactly is the, how is the amount determined? Did we look at this? I'm reading this slide as that is no longer present in it at all. So I'm wondering if was there a discussion about potentially offering some form of support there for this partnership that has existed with that foundation for, I can't think of the number off the top of my head, but as a member sitting on the board, I know it is providing many things to our students in our school district, and many of us didn't know about the details and ways that it was doing that, and then we had this long presentation about it and heard about the ways it impacted even programming at many of our elementary schools. So I feel a little hesitant taking that completely off the table in the way that that partnership is still very much functional and still very beneficial to our schools. Perhaps not the full amount of what it has existed is what we're looking at here, but I don't know if that, just to clarify, is that taking away all support from the district towards that foundation financially as it stands?
Based upon the previous meeting, the district's contribution, yes, it is removing the contribution of $25,000 for the director.
Okay. I would encourage the board to look at ways to include some form of support for that foundation, considering if there is not any support given, then that is less that foundation can do for kids. That's my 2 cents on it. I mean, I know we all sat through a meeting kind of hearing about it, so I just want to state that for the record. I'm sure Al would support that. I know he's listening in, but.
Belinda?
Okay, thank you. So previously, Mr. Moyer had asked about the family navigators, so I'm providing you information as to what the family navigators could potentially look like. So over the period of years, the first year we operated as paid internships, worked directly with the college. That's no longer an option. Second year, 23-24, we had one of the positions paid by the homeless grant, and the second was funded by the general fund budget. Third year, in which we're currently in, both positions are known as independent contractors, and they're covered as other professional services in the general fund budget. Of course, discussion for the 25-26 year as to where you want to head for this, but I wanted to give you a kind of like a summary, a synopsis of presently what the independent contractors' cost is currently at about $120,000. If we were to bring these employees on, several requirements are needed. One, we need to decide on employee category. Now, that may sound like, what do you mean by that? Well, we need to decide if these employees, they're independent contractors. We need to determine if they're classified support individuals, which I don't believe that they would stay underneath that classification, administrators, adding them to the Act 93, or professional employees, adding them to the GAEA. And if so, then of course we would need to terminate the independent contractor agreement with those two. We would need to create job descriptions because we do not have a current job description for those type of individuals. We also would need an MOU. An MOU would be specific to GAEA, not necessarily Act 93, but again, the board would have to make the decision as to how that category would fall into place. We then would have to post it, applications, interviews. So it would be a lengthy process in order to change the background or the commitment to the family navigators. And so, of course, in looking at bringing employees on underneath, assuming it's the GAEA contract, we're estimating salaries to be $180 with benefits. Benefits is relatively low simply because one of the employees is married to an individual in the district, so therefore already a part of our insurance offerings. So benefits are relatively low considering what it could be. So total estimation costs, and again, this is estimated because there's no surefire method to say how they'll be placed on the professional contract, but we're looking at $232,182 with a budgetary change of an estimated $112,182 to consider the family navigators as employees of the district. So I wanted to present this information. Mr. Moyer had asked for it, what it would look like, what would need to be done. So, further discussions or guidance on this would be helpful because many departments would have to be involved in moving these employees, or I should say these two individuals as employees.
Belinda, because I'm afraid it's going to get lost here. Nothing against the Family Navigators program, and I appreciate you presenting that, but I'm going to look at this from a common sense point of view. We're here trying to pass a budget that's fair not only to the district but to the taxpayers. These individuals are under contract currently.
Correct.
So there is no loss of service or any damage to anybody within the district with us just leaving them under contract, correct?
That's correct.
So my suggestion to this board would be before we would go down a venture of moving them that direction, and I'm not saying I'm against it, but I think it would be fair, at least from my perspective, to allow a new board that's going to take over next year to make that determination from a budget point of view and what works best for the district. You yourself just told us it's going to be a long process. So we're going to pass a budget, or we're going to propose to pass a budget with this in mind. Seems very reckless of me, for us, in my opinion. Because we're not losing anything.
You're not losing anything. You still continue the independent contractor agreements until otherwise. But it is not an easy, hey, let's make these employees of the district. It is a lengthy process, and one that I wanted to share with the estimation of costs is because this estimation of costs is not in the general fund budget process.
And I think that's fantastic. And I'm not saying I would, even if I was sitting here, and I won't be, when this gets brought up again in another year, I think that's a great idea for the board to look at that. I just think in the terms of our budget process this year, if we're not losing anything, it's irresponsible to try to jam this down. Because we're going to have to pass a budget, fund it, and we haven't even done the selection and gone through the MOUs. We don't know any resistance. We don't know where the turnaround comes, and it may not happen before the end of this year.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate
Just for
that.
providing you the information.
Yeah, no, and I understand that. I just, I needed to get that out there because I don't want somebody to think that, okay, we don't go that direction, that this board doesn't care about this particular Family Navigators program. It's really just the logistics of it and the timing of it when we're not losing anything.
I will share in talking to our administrator, it is a great program, and they are doing great things for having two individuals. And it's one that we've had other districts asking how we're operating it, simply because the value is there. And they just wanted to know how they could bring it into their district, similar fashion to what we are doing. So as of right now, ours are independent contractors, and we hope to retain that annually.
Thank you.
Belinda, can I ask, guidance counselors, where are they, how are they categorized as employees?
Yeah, guidance counselors are employees. They are a member of GAEA's contract, and family navigators and guidance counselors are two different areas of field. Please don't ask me to explain what those fields are. I will defer to the educators.
I think that they work a lot with the counselors, and that's why I was like, it would almost make sense if we were to do this, to put them with the counselors.
Yes, the counselors are part of the association agreement.
Yeah, they also work really, really closely with the district social worker.
Yes. Yes. So just providing you information. There was no change to the budget. This was just giving you additional information in terms of the budget process. Next slide. Again, you've seen this before. This has been our tax increase versus the index increase over the period of years and over the 6-year period. This is not new. So we've had, even with a 1.5% increase as proposed for next year, it would be a 0.818% over the last 8 years. Just for a point of reference, your wealth of the district is one of the factors in measuring the Act 1 index. So it's also referred to as electee. So new basic ed's funding formula will not come your way if your electee is relatively wealthy. And our electee is relatively wealthy, whether or not, even though we're given permission to raise 4.8% index, we would not receive any new money from the state, regardless if we're staying where we're at or increasing to the index. We're permitted to go to the index, so it's just basically the district leaving funds sitting off the table and not being collected by state funding in any way, shape, or form. I'd just like to point that out because the district is not receiving any additional basic education subsidy simply because the factors going into the basic ed subsidy, one of those is electee, and so Act 1 is a portion of that electee, just to provide additional sight. Next slide. Again, with the updated numbers to the revenue and to the expenditures, as well as taking a look at the county data, our market assessed value is the average is $274,408 for our district. And at 1%, it would be a $31.20 increase, and at 1.5%, $46.79 increase. However, with the homestead farmstead, the total would be increase to a reduction of $29.26, so which would bring the homestead farmstead property increase parcel based on 1.5 increase to $17.44 per year. Next slide is just a representation shown the last board meeting as well as the historical revenue expenditures and the general fund balance. Revenue expenditures are shown in the bar graphed area, whereas the fund balance is shown as the dark green line amount over the period of years. Next slide. We talk of, again, as I mentioned before, I just like to bring this home because fund balance is not just this number sitting there not untouchable. It is actual cash that is used until we are able to receive tax revenue. Once the tax parcels, the billing goes out and the funds come in. It looks about basically saying how many days of cash do you have on hand with the fund balance that you have. Now, of course, this is a projection over even out a 5-year period. If doing nothing other than raising 1% per year, we can see that our 2025, we would have 17 days of cash on hand with the 6% fund balance that we have presented before. If we put that out to 3-4 more years, you'll see we're in a negative status of 15 days of having no cash on hand. If we were to, and this is assuming if we were to maintain the exact same percentage of expenditure increases that we currently do, with no change of inflection and a commitment of 1% tax increase, we will then have our fund balance down below 15 days of cash on hand as a representation. Next slide. Just showing April 16th is up for the action and the vote. As we presented this evening, it'll be 2 options coming before you. It'll be 1.5% and 1%. And that evening is the vote for the final budget. And then, of course, after that, we file for all the appropriate documentation before PDE. Any questions?
Al, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to make a remark regarding the family navigators, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Al.
Yeah, I I just wanted to say a big thank you to Belinda for providing the feedback and the information regarding the family navigators. I do take a little bit of an issue that I do believe after 3 years of these people working with our pupil personnel services and attending the last advisory council meeting, my perception is these people have really become indispensable. And I do think the process of a job description and the other things to make them permanent professional employees, I think they could do that in about 5 minutes because they've been with the district for 3 full years at this point. We either know or we don't know what they're doing. But I believe they're equivalent to guidance counselors at each of the building levels. And what the remark was made that we're not losing anything or we're possibly jamming this down the budget at the 11th hour. I don't really think that's the case. With after 3 years of being with us, the risk that we do take, and frankly, if I'm Tara or I'm Rachel, I'm keeping my options open when I'm not getting anything towards tenure. I'm not getting anything towards my retirement, and I just I'm not on the same level with the rest of the professional staff. So I just think after 3 years, it's time that we either move forward and make a commitment to them, or we decide that maybe it's not where we want to go. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to Belinda for the feedback. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Al. Anybody have any additional questions of Belinda? Belinda, you're not getting away. Just real quickly, I want to follow up because I don't want a misconception. The audit's not in, and we talked at the last meeting there would be a surplus of in the past of in excess of $800,000. Are we in agreement there?
We have had excess. With our proposed aggregate financial reports, one can assume that we'll have an influx of money. But if I were to project that out, and again, there's so many unknowns at this particular point, I would not want to commit those funds when I do not know if those funds are 100% accurate. Meaning, there's a lot of audit adjustments that need to occur. So you could consider $500,000 of an increase, but I would also counter that to say, next year's budget, we're looking at decreasing the capital funding plan. I would recommend that there be action on the agenda for the close of the audit, that if there is any additional funding for the close of the audit to put towards the capital funding plan difference so that our facility and infrastructure is not taking a beat simply because of the budgetary, as being a offering, so to speak, during the school budget.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and this is not personal, and I know you're not taking it that way, but I'm being honest with you, I'm confused because I'm confident the last meeting it was represented, at least how I took it, that each year when this audit comes in, that we do not have an opportunity to see and make a judgment that there is an excess of $500,000 that are sitting there, and that the 0.5 that the district is asking us for can be offset. So all you're doing is you're not putting the taxpayers at 0.5. You're waiting a couple months until the audit shows that we have that money, and then we're supplementing that 0.5 with that, and not going to the unfunded assigned balance, and still having other funds available that we saw as a windfall from the audit that would then supplement the capital fund. See, unless something's moving around on me, it seems rather simple.
We better have money left over at the end because we're using $1.6 million out of savings to balance the budget. I think that what Belinda was saying was we don't want to double count money, and that's the risk you run with double counting money.
Yeah, and Jason, again, and I'm just trying to get my hands around this. Okay, we're dipping into savings, so the savings is really the unassigned fund balance. Because I can hear what's going to happen tomorrow on my emails, so I want to be crystal clear. Unassigned fund balance, that's where we're going to, where the board has said it's 6% every year. And your projections here puts us at 6%, right?
Yes.
So when the audit comes in a month from now or 2 months from now, and all of a sudden we say, oh, wow, there's $652,000 in that audit sitting there. What are we doing with that?
It goes into unassigned fund
Next-
balance to use to the next budget cycle.
Yeah, so next budget cycle, that's what'll keep us at 6%. That's what'll keep us at the 6% whenever we use another $2 million.
You guys do the budget, does it ever end? Because we passed a resolution that says we're going to be 0-0.
The only way that's going to end is if there's no reliance on fund balance, and we're not there. So we've got to rely on
Okay.
fund balance every single year until the fund balance runs out. And so, like Dr. Perrin said, and I had said, I cannot duplicate money that is unknown if it's going to be an increase. I could estimate, sure, you can estimate higher in revenue, but will it truly, I'm getting to the point, we are getting closer and closer on our expenditures that I wouldn't want to commit using unknown fund balance this year for next year's budget cycle.
Right, and I'm just asking you, is it not possible in the current situation we're in financially, that if you're talking about the 0.5 comes out to $230-some thousand, could that not be supplemented with whatever's left over from the audit? And how does that affect, because you're not going below 6%, we're staying at 6% by board mandate.
Right. The unfortunate thing is the budget needs to be approved before the audit
I
comes in.
agree,
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
I think what Belinda, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're recommending is underfunding the capital improvement plan.
Correct.
And then if there's a surplus after we
Correct.
get the audit back, then we'll refund that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, one last question.
Sure.
So last year, this board raised 1% for dedicated ACTI.
Correct.
This year, we're again considering a 1% increase. And I understand the reasoning behind it. Trust me, I get all that. Where's the 1%? Where's it getting parked at?
It's going to be parked as a designated fund balance. So right now, current year is sitting in expenditures, that 1%. We've raised revenue for that and designated 1%. It's sitting in expenditures. At year end, we move those expenditures over to a committed fund balance, just like PSERS, that when the bond payments come in and due, we pull from that account to pay for those payments. Once we have the mill in place, there's no more millage needed to fund the bond payments for ACTI.
So it's really, I'm sorry.
So I have a question in terms of that. So ACTI hasn't committed to a property, and we don't have an exact dollar amount in mind for that. And what we're doing with the 1% increase last year, the proposed 1% increase this year, we're increasing those mills, which will perpetually stay increased forever. So at what point do we determine, even if in 2 years or 3 years ACTI hasn't broken ground, which I hope they do, when do we know when is an appropriate time to stop that increase for compounding purposes?
Well, I believe ACTI has had the feasibility study done, as well as appropriate funding plan mechanism provided to them to say what different level of contributions each district would need to participate. So once we reach to that level of whether it's 20 million, 50 million, whatever our portion would be, we would stop raising mills to that point, because we would have the budget ready and prepared to fund that bond payment, our portion for ACTI.
It would take about, it'd be 4 to 5 years we would reach the level where they were looking at based on the feasibility studies. So if the eventual project ends up being, lesser, then that adjustment can be made kind of on the fly at that time.
Mr. Dickerson, right now, our commitment is over $1 million. We cannot raise millage $1 million in 1 year's time, so that's why we're recommending to do it over a period of years to phase that in, so it's not so much of an increase all at one time.
Basically, it's the same funding plan that previous boards did with preparing to do, say, the high school HVAC renovation. It's the same, just basically stepping up millage over time so that there isn't a big hit to taxpayers in a 1 or 2 year period. So, thanks. Good question.
No, thank you.
Any good questions?
I know this audit's coming back. I know, I can't get over that, because it's done it every year since I've been here. This is my 8th year.
It has to.
No, it's coming back, and it's going to come back with that surplus. That's what causes me to pause. I understand everything you're saying, but it's causing me, for whatever reason now, it's glowing. It's there.
And just the same as the state hasn't have their budget in place, and we have our budget in place. And if and when there is additional funds from the state, it goes right into the fund balance, used again for the following year. It's not that the money is lost, and it's not that, we're not misplacing money or whatever the case may be. If we receive new money that is non-budgeted, we are not permitted to spend that money. It has to go into fund balance, as legislation has ruled that. Just similar, like, we're not allowed to overexpend our expenditures once the budget has been set. However, we have, in terms of ESSER dollars, because we did not have ESSER money budgeted for 2 years, and we've expended over our budget in that term. So there's rules that do apply. I know that's not the answer that you're looking for.
I don't know that you can give me the answer that I'm looking for. I think I know the answer. The answer is that each year we end with a surplus, and I've just proposed that instead of that 0.5, I understand the 1% on the ACTI. What I'm having trouble with, if we're not going to drop below 6%, which is a board mandate, why would we even go 0.5? It's a measly 200, and I don't mean it's measly, $335,000, and then you're going to show me an audit, not you personally, but the district will get an audit back, and hey, let's say $500,000. So you borrowed from Peter to pay Paul right now. You didn't hurt the taxpayer. We still stayed at 6%, and we still were able to refund the capital improvement plan. And okay, we don't have it for next year. Well, next year is a different budget, and the district's and the board's going to do exactly what they do every single year. Where are you going to cut? Where are you going to streamline? You're going to work within your means. And if you have to go 0.5 next year because we made a mistake here, so be it. But I don't think we're making a mistake. The audit's going to show us that. That's my personal opinion.
I also think, though, that one of the things we don't want to do is put a board 3 or 4 years down the road in a situation where we have an increased structural revenue to a point to keep up with increased people costs, because we are funding, new contracts and things that are increasing at greater rates than previous contracts. So I think that if we don't increase structural revenues, shoving one-time money into the budget each year to fill gaps is going to put future boards at risk. Not necessarily this one for this budget, but 2-3 years down the road.
Thank you, Belinda. Thank you, Jason.
Sure.
Any additional questions from board members?
Sorry. I just wanted to ask, is the Act 93 contract that we're working on included in that budget?
Yes, it is.
Kathleen?
Yeah, Belinda, thank you. So I understand this. So we approve our budget before we know what the state will actually be giving us. And if the state gives us more than we anticipate, by school code, we're not allowed to actually spend that in this budget year, so it has to go into the unassigned fund balance.
Correct.
And that's why we often have something like a $500,000 or whatever surplus.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It could be federal money as well. Like, it could be other sources of revenue. It could be an increased money in interest rates. We do receive interest on our money as we invest it out. So it could be a number of things. Our budget, we do include estimations of new properties coming on. And we reach out to the county for those numbers. So there are moving targets. We're making the best estimate of what we have with maintaining fund balance at 6% based on policy. The board can change the policy if it so chooses, but we are preparing a budget and having it available to you based upon the factors that, in the end, unassigned fund balance needs to be at 6%.
Did we forget somebody who else contributes to that money? It's the taxpayers, is
Yes.
it not? Okay.
Yes.
Because I heard
Yes.
everything else, and there's where my question on that is at. It's not just from pot A, pot B. It may be from different pots that we can't predict, but it definitely is coming from a 0.5 or 0.1 tax increase, too.
A majority of our budget comes from local taxpayers because we're considered wealthy statewide. Yeah. Well, within the top.
I know.
Within the top, like 10%, or yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
8.3 is the Unified Indoor Bocce Program, I guess bocce ball.
So currently we have an allied sports program which consists of golf in the fall, bowling in the winter, and track and field in the spring. Bowling and track and field have a pretty good participant numbers. Golf the past 2 years has had very limited. Last school year we had 2. This school year we had 1 participant in allied golf. So what I would like to do is move allied bowling to the fall and then offer a bocce program, which is really starting to pick up the past 5 or 6 years. The Special Olympics would provide all the equipment we would need and the uniforms for the kids. The only thing we would need to provide is the stipend that would go from allied golf to bocce and transportation for 4 to 5 matches against teams in the mid-pen. Who that would be yet, I'm not quite sure. That would all depend.
So outside of travel, it's cost neutral?
Yes.
So for the board, personally, took part with Allied Bowling when it was down off of Steinware. It's just like when you argue ACTI, this program's invaluable for our students. And it reaches a set of students that can use that assistance, and it's a building block. So it's a very good program.
So I just want to make it clear, we're removing golf and adding bocce, correct?
That's the proposed on the information, yes.
Okay. And funding neutral, so I don't have to ask Belinda if this is in the budget.
Yeah, it's already in the budget, but it's golf. Yeah.
So that will come for an action item at the next meeting. Thank you, Cody. 8.4, the high school sewer pump station rehabilitation. This was a question this evening to move to an action item, but unfortunately we will not be moving it. It'll be on the next 2 weeks agenda. Are there any questions on that particular informational item? Hearing none, board committee reports. Wow, awesome. Program reports.
If I may, before Dr. Perrin jumps in, the feasibility study is available on our website underneath the facility subcommittee of facility and finance. So if you want to see the full report as well as the summary, it is posted on the committee
You mean
website.
demographic study, right?
Yes, what did I say?
Feasibility
Oh,
study.
I'm sorry.
No.
The demographic
No,
study.
please
I
have that
apologize.
demographic study available online.
Yeah, I'll give you
We
this.
do get questions about that.
I'll give you the synopsis without going on and reading it. So we did a Zoom call with Dr. Stuman from Carnegie Mellon whenever he sent us the final document. So basically, over a 10-year period, enrollment stays pretty stable. You might see increases and decreases of up to 100 students, but that's district-wide through through all 13 grades. So not much fluctuation there. And he said that basically the prior study that he did for us, what did he hit, 99%? It was 99% accurate that he did for us, so I feel pretty good about his numbers. I see Dave laughing because he sits through a lot of these in different districts. 99 is pretty good. So it's pretty stable over that 10-year period. And he did share with us that really the only place, if it could ever be wrong, the only thing that could be wrong is that we'd end up with more students because of the new housing that's going in. He said that basically we just have to keep an eye on the earlier grades to see if those projections hold true, because then we could follow those students forward. He said there's very little chance of it going down, only a little bit of a chance of it going up if, and he gave the variable a name, but basically what it is percent of new students as related to new housing, coming into the district. So that's kind of a synopsis, but you can go read the 60 pages of sophomore level statistics if you'd like. It's on the website.
Anything additional? All right, having said that, I'm sorry. Having said that, that'll conclude. I'll ask for a motion in a second, but I want to thank everybody and congratulate Kathleen Pratt on being not only nominated but selected, and again our 2 other candidates that came here this evening. it's refreshing to have somebody step forward that doesn't not come with criticism, but comes with solutions or potential solutions. So thanks both of you.
I have a couple.
Okay, I'm sorry, Jason, go ahead.
I just wanted to say congratulations to all of our seniors and their families that graduated recently, and best wishes to all of those students as they move on to the next chapter in their lives. And congrats to the high school team, staff, administration, teachers. Just put on another great commencement. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that makes that night seem seamless in terms of how it runs, and they do an excellent job with that. So congrats to the graduates, congrats to their families, and congrats to everybody at the high school that worked on that evening. And it didn't rain, which is fantastic. And the only other thing is this is my last board meeting, so thanks very much.
You stole that thunder. That's what I was just going to remind everybody. This is Dr. Perrin's last board meeting, and on behalf of the board, it's been an honor to work with you, serve with you. Mike and I have some very fond memories, and we have a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder from the COVID years and the countless hours on the phone trying to draft policy to get us through something we never thought was going to end. So, Jason, best of luck at your new district, and you leave us in very competent hands here with both our new superintendent, assistant superintendent, but financially across the board and educationally, this is one of the best districts, bar none, and I'm quite confident in saying that. So, thank you, Jason.
No, I appreciate it, and I will certainly say that. When I came here initially, I really did think. I see Todd over there because he was here whenever I came to the district. That I really thought it would be for kind of 4 years to see what the superintendent thing entailed, because I had done the assistant superintendent thing for about 6 years and thought I think I can help in the other role. And it's really the people that I'm in year 8 still sitting at this table. You know, it's the people in the schools. It's really just the people in the community in general that I chose to make a home here and stay for 8 years. And I'm glad that I did. And there are some lifelong friendships that were forged during that time that I'll be ever grateful for. And so I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity that these last 8 years provided me.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and you can gavel us out. So moved. Thank